I'd like to begin by apologizing for the sucky lighting because I was gonna use my overhead light because it's 8 o'clock, so the natural light isn't gonna work. But when I tried it, it looked awful because it was like this big blob of light and it was very distracting. So you're just gonna have to deal with my lamp over here. Also, I got a new chair, so I'm gonna show it to you because even though you probably don't care, but it's really cute.
I hope you can see it. I can't tell. I bet you can see it. Is that better? Maybe, probably not.
Oh, well, we're going back to me. Is that good? Sure. So I wanted to talk about writing because I'm a huge writer. And I was originally going to make a video about whether it was right to have really dark characters. But that kind of flopped. I was 2 minutes long and a minute of it was just me staring at the camera. So I wrote down a few ideas and the one that had the most things under it was cliches. So we're going to talk about that. And I'm not going to talk about specific cliches. I'm talking about, is it alright to have certain cliches in your story? One problem I get a lot with writing is, obviously I don't have a lot of people who critique my work. It's really my one friend who reads my stories, and that's about it. And a lot of times when your friends read your stories, obviously they don't want to insult you, so a lot of times if they do have problems with your book, chances are they're not going to say anything about it. So a lot of the critiquing for my stories just happens in my head, and by watching videos on YouTube and comparing my writing to what they're saying. So one problem I'm looking over here because I have like my notebook over here. One problem I have with cliches and tropes is your story too cliche or too tropey? And that's honestly debatable. I think it's obviously no matter what, you're going to have some trope in your story. But you don't want it to be too full of cliches because otherwise it's just a book everyone's already read and they don't really care to read it. But at the same time, having tropes and cliches is honestly kind of discouraged in the writing community. In a way, I don't know how better to describe it, because, they're just so common. They're a trope for a reason, because people kept writing these sort of things. And so, you don't want it to be too tropey or too cliche, because no one's going to want to read it. But on the flip side of that, if you have something coming out of left field, so that it's not cliche or tropey, it can make literally no sense to your story. A lot of times when I'm writing, I gotta figure out, is it better with tropes or without? And I tend to try to figure things out so that it works without the tropes, because I feel like it makes me feel more original. But at the same time, it's a very gray area, tropes. Because obviously there's certain tropes that you do not want to put in your book because they are dumb tropes and they're bad tropes. But at the same time, there are some that are good, but they're just so popular, you don't want to be like everyone else. I mean, that's debatable, but it's just a very gray area, It's not like it's black and white, okay, you should have this or this or this. No, it all depends on what you want to do. Oh, this is a good one. Do tropes matter? And the answer is, I don't know. I'm a 15-year-old recording a YouTube video in my bedroom that maybe 3 people are gonna see. So, I personally like some tropes. There are some tropes that I really like. It's just, where is the line where it's too cliche and it's too far out of left field? It just makes no sense because you're trying to avoid those tropes. And another problem with never mind, I can't say this, I already mentioned it. Haha, is my book like everyone else's, and I kind of already addressed that. It's just hard to write as a teenager, I feel like, because the most experience of writing you have is writing fanfiction on Google Docs, or even if it's not fanfiction, it's just stories, but you don't have the critique, you don't have someone looking over your work, you don't have as much experience as some of these other people might. So it's a very hard area. I guess I don't really have much left to say, but I guess the biggest thing is I have no idea what I'm talking about. And tropes are good, and tropes are bad. It just depends on which tropes you use, how you use them, and when you're using them. So, as a finale, don't write stupid stuff. Wow, I just spent like 7 minutes talking about absolute nonsense. Anyways, get a good night's sleep, don't die, and I hope you have a good day tomorrow. I'm sorry you had to watch this.